bombs blasted Brussels on March 22nd, killing dozens and injuring hundreds. With yet another terrorist attack, the Islamic State has now struck directly at the headquarters of the European Union and NATO. European leaders are calling the assault on Belgium an affront to the entire continent. Learn about what the Bible prophesies about how Europe will ultimately respond. Next on The Key of David with Gerald Fleury.
Greetings, everyone. On March the 22nd, 2016, we saw another terrorist attack. This time it was in Brussels, Belgium, and really killed about 34 people, as I understand it, and wounded hundreds of others. Now, Brussels is the headquarters of the European Union. It's also the headquarters of NATO, and it even has the World Court there. So that is a critical location in Europe. In fact, it's the very heart of Europe. And really, when you look at this and study it a little more deeply, you see that the political foundations of that European Union has really been deeply shaken. If you look at the power of the Catholic Church, many people understand, and it's no secret, that it has a lot of power in directing and guiding the European Union. And so this was really a strike at Germany and the European Union and even the Catholic Church. ISIS did it, and ISIS has been beheading Christians to the extent that even the U.S. has labeled it genocide. And I think if you look at the overall picture, most of those Christians that have been killed are Catholic, and the Catholic Church certainly considers radical Islam one of their major, if not the biggest problem they have to face right now. So what is going on in the Middle East is very concerning to ISIS, and they see Germany even helping a lot and doing a lot of things in the Middle East that most of the world does not see. Germany has a lot of power in the Middle East, and much of it, I think, is hidden from most people. Let me read you a quote from French President François Hollande. He called the blast an attack on the whole of Europe and said the continent must take action to better defend itself. Terrorism has struck Belgium, but it was Europe that was targeted, and everyone who is affected, Mr. Hollande said, in Paris. So this is no small attack, and really Europe has never suffered an attack like this one. It hitting Brussels is just sending a bloody message from ISIS that they're going after Germany, the European Union, and the Catholic Church especially. So there is something building here that is going to be rather earth-shaking in a short while. And I'll show you that as we go along here, but these terrorists apparently had planned this attack and weren't quite ready to fulfill it, I suppose, because one of their, the top leader of that terrorist group, who also led the Paris attack, had just been captured. And so I think the experts believe overall that they had to hasten that attack and do it sooner than they had planned on doing. And so it could have been much worse. It could have been a lot worse. But people ask, well, how do you fight this? Or will we ever win the war against Islamic terrorists? Those are questions that have been asked in just the recent incident, the recent attack. But I want to show you today that there is a nation that is going to lead in the destruction of radical Islam. And I'm going to show you also that there's an individual who's going to lead that charge and do a lot of damage in the process. Islamic terrorism is going to be defeated. And I'll show you in minuscule detail just how that's going to be done today, and also send you literature that will prove all of this to you and make it really very clear. It's not something that's hard and difficult to understand. But this attack is going to impact Europe more than any they've had to this date. It is going to affect them in many ways. Now we know, and we've said and taught many times on this program about how Germany is the economic head of Europe. But the big problem is they don't have a real strong political head. Now it's mostly economic, although it's becoming more militaristic. And it is really that union has especially led by Germany, has a lot of power. And so they're still waiting for their leader to show some real strength and provide the leadership that is needed in these very great crises that they're facing. Let me give you a quote here from Politico, March 22nd, 2016. Here's the quote: "Challenging that narrative, which will undoubtedly seep into national debates across the EU, will require convincing leadership and resolve. And on so many other fronts in Europe these days, only one leader possesses the requisite political skill and stature for that role, Angela Merkel." But I'm going to tell you and guarantee you that Angela Merkel is not going to fulfill that role. She is not going to lead Germany in dealing with this problem and other problems, many other problems that they have. But the Bible prophecy says there's going to be a strong man that comes on the scene and leads Germany and 10 nations, which will be greatly reduced from the 28 nations now in the European Union. But they're facing a great crisis, and they can't get the political control over 28 nations, so they're going to get it over 10. And it will be a major, mighty fulfillment of many prophecies in your Bible. And it's coming very, very fast. Let's turn to Habakkuk 1 in verse 6. "For lo, I raise up the Chaldeans." Well, who are these Chaldeans? Well, I'll give you more information as we go along. It's very clear, and we'll show you that and send you literature to add to that proof. I will raise up the Chaldeans. God is doing this, and He's going to punish some nations, and we need to know who they are. And we've been pointing that out for years, but anyhow, I'll raise up the Chaldeans, that bitter and hasty nation. Chaldeans refers to the name, really, of the Holy Roman Empire, which is about to burst on the world scene probably this year or next. Now, we have a Holy Roman Empire book that we have mailed out to a lot of people and explains all of this to you and proves all of it to you. But these things need to be understood because they're end-time prophecies. They're prophecies for today. And I'll read this verse 6 again and a couple other verses. "For lo, I raise up the Chaldeans, that bitter and hasty nation, which shall march through the breadth of the land to possess the dwelling places that are not theirs." I mean, this is earth-shaking, and nations are being conquered. "They are terrible and dreadful." Well, who could that be? Terrible and dreadful. Maybe like in World War II and all the concentration camps and terrible, terrible, dreadful things like that. Well, who could that be? "Their judgment and their dignity shall proceed of themselves. Their horses also are swifter than the leopards and are more fierce than the evening wolves. And their horsemen shall spread themselves, and their horsemen shall come from far. They shall fly as the eagle that hastes to eat." Now, this is a terrifying scene. It's talking about one nation, though, that's leading them all, leading a combine of power and nations. It's like World War II all over again, only far worse. But it's going to deal with radical Islam. Verse 11, then shall his mind, see, this is a man, his mind change, and he shall pass over and offend, imputing this his power unto his God. He's a very religious man. Well, he must be a Christian located in Europe, but he's going to be influenced heavily by an evil spirit when he gets that power. And he's going to do things that he wouldn't dream he would do otherwise. Now that's certainly a geopolitical development that we want to be aware of. Obviously, Germany dominates Europe today economically and to some degree militarily, but not with the power that they're about to have. The seventh and final resurrection of the Holy Roman Empire is ready to enter on the world stage as a superpower. And it's going to be a power that is going to destroy radical Islam. And it's prophesied in a number of prophecies. We're talking about the Fourth Reich that's coming in Germany. And here's what Der Spiegel, one of Germany's, well, perhaps, I think the most respected magazine, with a circulation of more than 1 million, and it explicitly compared modern Germany to the Holy Roman Empire in the March 21, 2015 issue, and talked about Germany's Fourth Reich. Hitler was the Third Reich, or empire, and a very deadly, dangerous empire. And the next one is going to be far, far more dangerous and more deadly in this world. And it's time that we wake up and see that and see what Bible prophecy says is coming upon us. These terrorist attacks are a part of an ongoing prophecy that we've been talking about for 70 years. We need to understand that. Here's Simon Heffer. I'll read you another quote, Daily Mail, August 17, 2011. Where Hitler failed by military means to conquer Europe, modern Germans are succeeding through trade and financial discipline. Welcome to the Fourth Reich. It continues by saying, the Fourth Reich is here without a shot being fired. And here's another quote. Nigel Farage, former leader of the United Kingdom Independence Party in the European Parliament, September 2010, said this: we are now living in a German-dominated Europe, something that the European project was actually supposed to stop. But just the opposite has happened. Pretty scary stuff. Martin Wolf, Financial Times, May 8, 2012, quote, this is not a monetary union, it is far more like an empire, or the Fourth Reich ruling over Europe. Well, it's going to be the last head of the Holy Roman Empire, the seventh head. There have been 6 that have preceded it already. And we ought to know about that history. It ought to be understood by every child in school, but they know almost nothing of it. The world is almost ignorant about the 7 Holy Roman Empires. So, the resurrection of that seventh head is really critical. Let's look at Isaiah 10 and verse 5. This is talking about Germany. The ancient name for Germany was Assyria. Notice, quote, this is verse 5 of Isaiah 10. O Assyrian, the rod of mine anger, and the staff in their hand is mine indignation. Well, how about that? God has raised them up as a tool that He's going to use to punish some sinning people. Now, who could that be? You need to know. I'm telling you, you need to know. Every single one of us needs to know, because it's going to touch the lives of every one of us. We have a free booklet on the remarkable identity of the German people, and we'll send that to you. It identifies the Assyrians and tells you and proves to you that they are the Germans of today. Verse 6, I will send him, Germany, or this man from Germany, or leading Germany, I will send him against an hypocritical nation, against the people of my wrath will I give him a charge to take the spoil and to take the prey and to tread them down like the mire of the streets. So that's the German-led Holy Roman Empire. They're going to do more than just stamp out radical Islam. Verse 7 says, howbeit, he means not so, neither does his heart think so. I mean, this is going to be the Charlemagne they're looking for to lead the European Union, or what will soon be called the Holy Roman Empire, and some people are already calling it that. They see what is happening, but they don't understand what it's going to do at all, and they should. It's in his heart to destroy and cut off nations, not a few. That's just been their history. Who is it that's cut off so many nations and destroyed so many nations in this world? Well, who started World War I and World War II? And who started the War of 1870? You can go on back in history and see exactly how militaristic Germany has been throughout their history. This Holy Roman Empire has gotten a grip on them, and of course the German people are a great people. But they have been really just almost captivated by the Holy Roman Empire throughout their history, or at least many hundreds of years of their history. And I'll just read you a quote here. In this prophecy, the term Assyria, Germany, is used interchangeably with Babylonians and Chaldeans. You can see verses 14 through 18 and see that, referring to the people from the region of Babylon and Chaldea. So that's not hard to prove. Together, these two races were the dominant power in ancient Babylon. This is from our book on the Holy Roman Empire in prophecy. Prophetically speaking, the terms Babylonians and Chaldeans refer to the Holy Roman Empire, the roots of which extends all the way back to ancient Babylon. Today, as in the past, Assyria or Germany leads the collection of peoples that comprise the resurrected Holy Roman Empire. Now, Herbert Armstrong, the founder of the Worldwide Church of God, knew Otto von Habsburg, and he knew Franz Joseph Strauss, and then we wrote here, it is a dream shared and perpetuated by such Bavarians as the elder statesman Edmund Stoiber, yet still most popular political personage in Germany, despite the current withdrawal from active politics, Karl Theodor zu Guttenberg, Baron of the Holy Roman Empire. Quite a popular man in Germany and a former defense minister and a man of great ability. He is a popular man in Germany. Here is what Otto von Habsburg said, the man that met with Herbert Armstrong many times. Quote, the European community is living largely by the heritage of the Holy Roman Empire, though the great majority of the people who live by it don't know by what heritage they live. We possess a European symbol which belongs to all nations of Europe equally. This is the crown of the Holy Roman Empire, which embodies the tradition of Charlemagne. Charlemagne walked through rivers of blood in Europe, conquering people. Now, that's not a nice history for Europe to have, but it seems like they don't quite understand where this is all leading. But if you look at the Constitution of the European Union, you'll see it's very anti-democratic in many ways, and that's one reason Britain's going to vote to probably get out in June, or at least it looks that way. But Margaret Thatcher, when she was leading Britain, said this, just 4 years following German reunification declared back in 1993, she said, quote, you have not anchored Germany to Europe, which they were supposed to do. You have anchored Europe to a newly dominant, unified Germany. Well, that's not a small problem. Well, then in our article, Habsburg heir to an empire dies. We'll send you a copy of this, but it says here that in that article, it is a dream shared and perpetuated by such Bavarians as the elder statesman Edmund Stoiber and as the, well, I think I read that before, the popular baron of the Holy Roman Empire, zu Gutenberg. So this is a man that's coming on the scene and, again, has a lot of potential in politics. Daniel 8 in verse 23, let me read that to you. It describes a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences, and through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. Now this is a man, a strong man, that's going to come on the scene in Europe. And it's prophesied in your Bible. It's not going to be, that leadership role is not going to be held by Angela Merkel. It's going to be held by this man prophesied in your Bible to lead one nation, which is going to lead many others. So you can read Revelation 16 verses 12 through 16 where it talks about the armies of Armageddon. Let me tell you, these armies are out there right now, and they're getting ready to clash. If you just look around a little, you'll see that, and it'll be obvious to anybody who's really looking into it. But notice Daniel 8 and verse 25. I'll just read you the last part of this. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, that's Christ, but he shall be broken without hand. God says he's just going to be broken without hand. That's God himself is going to, or Christ himself is going to destroy that last head of the Holy Roman Empire, and it'll never, ever rise again. It'll never, ever rise again. Isn't that wonderful? Notice Daniel 11 and verse 40. Here is that Holy Roman Empire, and notice what it does. And at the time of the end shall the king of the south push at him, and the king of the north, that's the Holy Roman Empire, led by Germany, shall come against him like a whirlwind with chariots and with horsemen and with many ships, and he shall enter into the countries and shall overflow and pass over. The king of the north is going to destroy, this man is going to destroy another king of radical Islam, which is Iran. By far the biggest terrorist sponsoring nation in the world. And the Holy Roman Empire is going to destroy them. Now you just watch this and you can see it happen. We won't have to wait that long, but you see, we have said for many years, if you're going to stop radical Islam, you're going to have to kill the head of the snake, and that happens to be Iran. The rest of them, they're just periphery. They're not the big terrorist, the king terrorist. And the king of the north, or the king of the Holy Roman Empire, is going to destroy them. Our material will prove all that to you. You don't have to guess about this. I have said in 2003 that we have to cut off the head of the terrorist snake. That was from the 2003 November Trumpet magazine. And I said in 2006 that America lacks the will to confront Iran, the head of the terrorist sponsoring snake. That from the Philadelphia Trumpet, September 2006. I said the same thing in April 2008 Trumpet. Iran is the head of the terrorist snake. See, again, and it goes on to talk about this man. He shall enter into the glorious land. He's going to enter into Jerusalem, this king of the north. And it's going to be something that is going to bring Jesus Christ to destroy these people. Mr. Armstrong wrote about that many years ago, like 60 and 70 years ago. He wrote about this. And you can see some of that in our material, but you need to realize that this goes on. Daniel 12 goes on to say that we're going to, if you help get this message out and turn people to righteousness, that you're going to shine like the stars forever and ever. That's what the kind of reward that God is going to give those that come out now and help Jesus Christ get this message out to the world and warn the people of what is coming. That is wonderful, wonderful news. Until next week, this is Gerald Flurry. Goodbye, friends.
Bombs blasted Brussels on March 22nd, killing dozens and injuring hundreds. With yet another terrorist attack, the Islamic State has now struck directly at the headquarters of the European Union and NATO. European leaders are calling the assault on Belgium an affront to the entire continent. Learn about what the Bible prophesies about how Europe will ultimately respond. The Fourth Reich is rising in Germany today. Many remember the destruction of Hitler's Third Reich, but consider it ancient history, irrelevant to our time. What they don't grasp is the inspiration Hitler took from the bloody rule of Charlemagne. All of Europe still reveres Charlemagne, the first Holy Roman Emperor. Request our free booklet, Germany in Prophecy, to uncover the roots of Germany's war-making history. Prove that Germany will soon lead one final resurrection of a Holy Roman Empire patterned after Charlemagne's violent conquests. Prove that a German strongman will decisively counter the murderous actions of radical Islam, sparking the worst conflict in human history. Study Germany in Prophecy to discover the joy-filled conclusion to this devastating nuclear war. You will also receive a collection of free reprint articles including The Last Crusade, The Holy Roman Empire is Back, Otto von Habsburg's Greatest Fear Realized, and The Remarkable Identity of the German People. The Bible is full of prophecies about the German people. Germany is one of the most important nations to understand, no matter where you live. Learn about Germany's past, present, and future by reading these important articles. It costs you nothing. It is worth everything. All our literature is available free of charge, with no cost or obligation to you. Order now.